This is Metabolic Radio, the podcast dedicated to keeping you informed when it comes to everything fitness. My name is Taylor Empey, and with the help of my co-host Shane Pace, we aim to expose the truths about the health and fitness industry. The information and suggestions given in this podcast should not be considered as clinical or medical advice. Consult with a physician before implementing any information provided on this podcast. And yet again, here we are, beginning another episode, giggling. We have so much fun recording these episodes for you people.
Especially beforehand. You guys don't hear half the funny stuff.
I know. We just talked about just leaving the mic recording constantly and just capturing everything that we say. The only problem is...
We'd make fun of ourselves later.
Yeah.
In mass.
And I'd have to figure out how to clip it all and edit it all down.
That's true. I'd feel bad for him, kind of. It wouldn't hurt me.
One of these days, we'll just have to do just a silly, nonsensical episode.
We usually do that.
No, they're educational.
Okay, I accept that.
All right. Anyway,
should I start off by denying my earlier statement?
Yes, you should actually.
I should.
Before we start the Q&A for this week, Shane has a confession.
It's not that it's a confession, because I did say, hey, I have not truly studied this. I did say that.
That's true. You did precede your statement with that.
Yes. But Wendy's has cut back substantially on trans fats, but
they still exist.
They still exist in their meats.
So if you were listening to the episode where we were talking about Shane's Wendy's intake,
I was sad.
discrediting us.
I'm now saddened because I may have to reevaluate.
What episode was that? The IIFYM episode?
Yeah.
Okay. So the episode, whichever one,
Friday.
13, I think it is, something like that, 14. One of those episodes, the IIFYM episode. That's a good one, and especially if you want to hear Shane talk about his food intake while on the road.
Yes, which is not good, and I admitted that too. So,
okay, well, now that that's out of the way.
I will have to rethink it, though. I may have to go figure out somewhere else. What if Arby's is bad?
Dude, no.
I'll have to investigate that, too.
No. Okay, so for this week's Q&A, we've had a number of questions submitted. Really good stuff, actually. So this first question is kind of there's multiple layers to this question that Sue submitted. Sue's one of our members of our forum on Facebook. So just go to Facebook and search for Metabolic Radio Private Forum, and we will be happy to add you to the conversation. But Sue is asking about supplementation again. She said that she had a lunch and learn that she had hosted at her work as part of their wellness program, and an endocrinologist was presenting and recommended their top 5 supplements that they think everyone should know their levels on, basically, or know their need for these supplements, and should consider these as their first go-to supplements that professional recommended for them. They included, and I don't know if this is in any particular order, but they included vitamin D3, omega-3, CoQ10, B complex, and magnesium. So she was, I don't know if the endocrinologist was a he or she, but the person was talking about just the importance of these nutrients being included for various reasons. Sue didn't entirely explain that, why they were recommended from that person, but we can kind of cover that a little bit, why we think that they most likely recommended them. Then she also asked what top 5 supplements we would recommend. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the ones that the endocrinologist recommended, and then we'll give our lists of top supplements. Shane and I both came up with a list, and we'll go from there. So
mine's really not in order, though.
In like a priority order?
Yeah, I'm not worried about the order.
No, that's fine. I said regardless of order, but just grouped together for importance.
Right.
So yeah, these aren't necessarily in any particular order, but so the importance of vitamin D Do you want to take this first one, or do you want me to?
Go.
Okay.
Going
So,
on. I know me. I'll pipe.
yeah, as we've talked about in the past, vitamin D3 has it's a prohormone, essentially precursor to testosterone.
Yeah, well, is one of them. Yes.
Yeah, so that is even though that's more approached as as a vitamin.
It's not a vitamin though. That's one of the things that I actually bothered by with D3 is it's not a vitamin at all.
Is it not I see you know more about this than I do on this particular front with vitamin D.
It shouldn't be classified as a vitamin. It's not a vitamin.
Interesting.
So
do you think that if it was labeled as a prohormone that people would avoid it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I
think
people
need it. So.
And they need it. Yeah. And I think when it was discovered they thought it was a vitamin, so they just tied it in. That's kind of where it came from.
One thing that I've seen with clients consistently, and this probably also deals with our geographic location being in Salt Lake City, which is north of the equator, and we don't get as much sun, but we get plenty during the warm seasons. Yeah. But people do see significant drops in vitamin D during cold seasons, or I guess depending on where you're located around the earth, but just kind of with how much sun exposure you get. I personally have gotten my blood work done and had this tested, and I come in very low. So I do supplement. I sometimes superdose, which means you're taking significantly multiple times the recommended amount. There are some nutrients you can and some nutrients you can't do that, but I do see very good qualities and purposes for the use of vitamin D. I personally see benefits since I supplement with this. It increases recovery, testosterone benefits. It's a combination of factors, but over the last I don't know, probably all the time I've been training, so multiple years, I've increased my testosterone by nearly 400 points, which is quite a lot. That's probably been a contributor. Obviously, resistance training is a contributor. Other factors, diet, that's a contributor too. But anyway, so there are some good qualities to vitamin D3. Is there anything you want to add to that one?
Now, D3 is something that's worth taking. If it's fat soluble, so you can actually have you're at higher risk because of it. Taking it, but that being said, it from what we just looked at today, as a matter of fact, because we wanted to make sure that we weren't making mistakes on this, but you can pretty high dosage of it and not have a problem.
Oh yeah, like I was telling you before, I have a client who
this is not recommended for the average person.
Listen to the disclaimer at the beginning of the episode.
Holy crap, yes.
But this is a client of mine was recommended by his doctor, not myself, to supplement 50,000 IUs of vitamin D per day. And to give you an idea of how much that is, I can't remember exactly. I think the recommended daily intake or the dietary reference intake for vitamin D is about 400 IUs a day. I think that's correct. So that gives you an idea of how much. What?
Canadians recommend 1,000.
Oh, okay. I take it depends on the time of year, but I take anywhere between 1,000 and 5,000 IUs a day personally. But that's because I've seen a need for it for myself. My mood increases. I tend to be prone to anxiety and depression, so that definitely kind of helps with that as well. I've seen a noticeable change there. But so the next one, the endocrinologist recommended was omega-3 fatty acid. This is something that we definitely agree with.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because omega-3 is anti-inflammatory. And, I mean, honestly, should people take this? Absolutely. Like, if you're not getting enough in your diet, which I would argue for the types of foods that people consume, they do not get enough of this, because omega-6 and omega-9 fatty acids are actually pro-inflammatory, and that's a lot more prevalent in processed foods,
across the
fried foods. You got your trans fats. There's just a lot of inflammatory, pro-inflammatory type foods that people consume that cause inflammation and a lot of different negative kind of physiological responses that omega-3 will help to treat. It's also, it has a lot of different purposes and functions in the body that just aid that it aids basically. So Was there something on omega-3 you wanted to touch upon?
No, the only thing I was going to say is you got to realize too that most cancers are linked heavily to inflammation.
Oh yeah.
And so when you start talking about things like, it's not like you don't need omega-6 and omega-9s. The problem is you have to have a conjunction with something like omega-3 to counterbalance it.
Yeah. I mean, there's been some research done that shows that our consumption of omega-6 and 9s is dramatically higher than the ratio and intake of omega-3. So if we actually reversed it and consumed better. As many omega-3s as we do omega-6 or 9, then that would be a lot better. Now, this isn't technically a vitamin. It's a healthy fatty acid. So it is a supplement, but it's not a vitamin. And you would need to...
or vitamin, as they say in England.
Vitamin.
Yes.
But you'd need to get this through diet too. So you don't just have to load up on a ton of supplement omega-3, but it's present. We've talked about this. It's present in chia seeds. Not necessarily the greatest source of it, but that's a decent source of omega-3. Then you've got your fish oil from actual consuming of fish. Now, here's one thing I want to talk about though, is when you're talking about omega-3 is quality of supplement, because a lot of omega-3 supplements undergo too much oxidation.
Well, okay.
And they become toxic in the body.
That's true too.
And that's a controversy there about fish oil.
But let's talk about, because you're going into a topic that we have to talk on krill.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. Uh-huh.
So understand
which is different kind.
It's a different kind,
but source of omega-3.
But the two kinds that you need are
of fatty acids
in omega-3s that you're
the DHA and the EPA.
Yes, you want to look for that. That's the dosage you're actually looking at. If you look at a fish oil and it's lower than that, it's not optimal. So krill. The problem I've got with krill is it's really low in those. So I would personally
see, and I've been hearing about, and
krill's got other options.
I haven't looked at the research, but people are turning to krill versus fish oil because fish oil is coming from a lot of these filthy farmed like fish farms, and the quality of the fatty acid is poor, and then the light and heat and
which is
oxygen exposure,
which is all true. I mean, you got to agree with that. But you got to take into consideration though is when you're looking for your dosages, you'd have to take it's okay to do it, but it's expensive to do it through krill. Is the only reason why I say steer away from it. Krill's got better benefits. If you go and you actually read the packaging, it'll give you a lot of the benefits krill has.
Yeah.
Krill actually has a lot of benefits above just taking a regular fish oil. That being said, it's expensive. So I wouldn't do krill for that reason, just because of the cost. But
I mean, when it comes down to it, basically, if you can, get more omega-3 through your diet first, and then look at additional supplementation.
Well, right. If you eat a lot of fish, you don't need to supplement. That's a fact.
Yeah.
Enough fish and you're fine.
Yeah, because the average omega-3 fish oil-based supplement is going to give you about, 5 grams of it?
Yeah.
That's easily a piece of salmon, which is going to have actually more than that anyway. I would just buy fresh, wild-caught, no antibiotic, non-farm raised fish, and you'd be good.
Yeah, unless you're like me, you don't like the flavor.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
I could eat salmon every day.
I'm not.
It's just a bit expensive.
Yeah, I couldn't just cost, but no, I used to love it, and for some reason I lost taste for it, so I don't eat it anymore. So I was taking over 6 grams
of fish oil. That's not. Yeah, that's not that much.
No,
you're saying supplemental.
Well, yeah, I don't eat it, so.
Well, you wouldn't eat it if you didn't eat it, yeah.
There you go.
Now, the next supplement that was recommended was, in order, CoQ10. Shane knows the majority about this versus myself, so I'm going to let him take this one.
Well, and I'm going to take it from a standpoint of statins to start with. So if you're on a statin, you need to be on CoQ10. Statins have a tendency to weaken the heart, and so... I'm going to butcher statins for a minute, even though I'm not a doctor. Statins are very detrimental. They do a lot of damage to a person. You can get better benefits, in my opinion, from taking an aspirin than you can from a statin. What they do really does a lot of damage to the body. If you're on a statin, I'd go research the world out of it just to make sure you understand it. But no matter what, if you're on a statin, because there are people that need to be on statins, but it's very rare in my opinion, it's way overdosed. People use it way too. I mean, doctors use it way too often to deal with heart disease. When I think if they went to a ketogenic diet, it would fix that problem. That being said, CoQ10 helps to strengthen the heart. It's something that's produced in the body naturally, but it kind of degrades. Not degrades. The production goes down, if you will, as you get older. So most people should be on it. I personally take almost 200 milligrams of it. When I haven't been on it for a while, but that's when I take it. That's about what I take in a day. It's definitely worth having. It has a lot of antioxidant effects that'll help as well. But like I said, it's something for someone who's on a statin. They have to be on it. If they're not on it, their doctor they need to go in there and talk to their doctor in a serious way and ask them why they're not. Because I think that should go in conjunction. Mm-hmm. If you're gonna take something that actually can cause you to have more heart problems in the form of a statin, you really should have something that's going to strengthen your heart as well, and CoQ10 is really big that way.
Awesome.
As you age too, one of the other things that you need to understand is if you get on a CoQ10 type things, your energy levels will go up quite a bit too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's awesome. Okay.
So I may actually revamp my list because Anyway, we'll talk about that when we get there.
So the next one was a B complex, or the combination of multiple various B vitamins.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I mean, there's benefits, obviously. You have increased energy. A B complex has a lot of different classification of B vitamins in there that all serve different functions. Yes. Folic acid is a B vitamin. I've actually, in fact, if you remember the episode I just talked about a couple episodes back about the controversy of whether folic acid supplementation is as effective, and over supplementation being an issue for birth defects in pregnant women. Now, if you're not a woman and you're not pregnant, or you are a woman and you're not pregnant, then you don't have to worry as much about that. But just, I don't know. I see the benefits of maybe taking a B complex, but again, it really just comes down to having the right diet, having the right lifestyle, and because ideally you don't want to be on a slew of supplements. You don't want to trade a pill box of prescriptions for a pill box of supplements necessarily. I personally don't see it as much of a necessity as some of these other ones, especially the next one coming up. The endocrinologist probably has a greater understanding of it than I do, so that's probably why they recommended it. But from what I know about it, I could see it as being beneficial. I don't see it as a necessity top 5 supplement.
Well, you got... So I'm going to read...
But you will have increased energy from taking it from the B12. I'm
going to read it. Yeah, you would, for sure, because, a few of these are not... They're almost all of these are highly beneficial, but... thiamine, riboflavin or flavin, depending on who you are. Niacin.
The tingly one.
Did you say that one?
No, I didn't. I thought you did. Oops, I just turned his screen off.
Nicely done. That one right there.
Which one?
No, this one.
Okay, what about it?
I'm just
talk about it.
Well. The main ones, folic acid. That's what you mentioned.
I was talking, yeah.
The main ones that you actually have heard, biotin is another one you actually have heard of. Most of these you haven't heard of, I guarantee. But niacin has real big effects. Riboflavin is one that's got pretty big effects. Folic acid is another one.
So, when it comes down to it, yeah, they have their benefits and they serve their purpose, but would you recommend that this is a top 5 supplement?
No, I still don't. It has, certain aspects. I would say as a complex, no. Mm-hmm. If top 5 complex might be a better option than taking one of them, though.
Well, yeah, I agree. Like, if you're going to take a B vitamin, you might as well take a complex.
It makes more sense in this mm-hmm. category because
I just don't see it as a necessity top 5 supplement unless the endocrinologist is referring to some type of statistical information that we don't know about that is justification for throwing that in there as a top necessity.
Agreed.
Which could be the case. We don't know. I wasn't in that presentation.
See, I don't know enough about B5 or B6. Some of these actually have benefits that I would not have known if I hadn't looked it up. It actually kind of is impressive. As you read more on it, it looks to me like it actually would have a pretty good effect on you overall.
Awesome. Anything particular you want to note about it?
I would say, if according to what I'm reading here, if you had issues with something very specific, like, let me see where did I just read that.
Well, that makes sense, because vitamins and minerals, micronutrients, they all have individual functions that they serve, and they can serve many multiple functions in the body. And so if your doctor's recommending you take something like that, there's a purpose. I mean, because they serve these individual functions that maybe you particularly need. Now, as a blanket statement, does everyone need to take a B complex? I don't think so.
I would agree with that.
I just don't really see that being the case.
No, but
unless, like I said, there's some weird, crazy statistical information that suggests that, but I doubt that.
No, it looks like if somebody was, like, say, pregnant, there was reasons to take it. For Alzheimer's, it helps with that, with strokes and heart disease.
So it really comes down to
some types of cancers.
Situational basis.
That's what I'm saying. I think if they have something going on, here's another one for B12. It helps with chronic fatigue syndrome, osteoarthritis, bursitis. So if you have issues, then I would say that it's higher on the list at that point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then the last one was magnesium, and that's magnesium is an essential one because it's involved. It's an electrolyte. It serves certain electrolyte functions as well, but it's key in absorption of many other nutrients as well. So that's one thing you got to think about when we're talking about vitamins and minerals is just because you're taking a supplement or just because you're getting vitamins and minerals through certain foods doesn't mean you're necessarily absorbing all those nutrients, depending on enzymes and coenzymes specifically in the digestive process. Your gut flora impacts that. So in terms of helping with absorption, that's why the endocrinologist is really recommending magnesium. At least that's what Sue was kind of indicating.
That's true.
Yeah, and so I see that being that magnesium is definitely a supplement I would recommend for sure.
If you're deficient. So if you've been tested and you're deficient, for sure.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about magnesium and zinc?
We'll get into that in more detail. I want to add this though. So magnesium is it's not absorbed well from foods. That's one of the reasons why they would recommend that you
supplement with it, because you're not getting enough of it from your diet.
Right.
Yeah. I can totally see, and that happens with a lot of nutrients too.
It sounds to me, from what I can see, eating ketogenic actually causes the absorption of magnesium to be reduced.
Interesting. Also along the lines of D3, just to touch back on that real quick, was I believe if you're taking a calcium supplement, you're only going to absorb, I believe it's about 30% of the calcium you actually intake without supplementing with D3. If you supplement additional D3, sure. Your absorption rate increases dramatically on your calcium intake. So
funny you bring that up. Funny you bring that up, because magnesium and calcium balance each other out.
Yeah.
And it's recommended that you take it in 2-to-1 dose.
Well, that's why they're combined. If you find a calcium supplement, you often find it as calcium, magnesium, zinc, or calcium and magnesium at least together.
Right. And it sounds like you should have calcium to magnesium intake at about 2-to-1 ratio, because they actually calcium will make it so you have a higher need for magnesium.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So yeah, I think generally, to answer this question, we definitely agree with the supplements recommended, B complex being an optional one. But I could definitely see how a large majority, not necessarily but the majority, but a large amount of the population could benefit from taking these individual supplements. So then Sue asked, what was our individual recommended top 5 supplements? We're going to have to breeze through these kind of quick.
No, that's fine.
So
just read them off.
So pretty much for the we kind of came up with these together, and we'll talk about the ones that differ from the main list. But for we're talking 2 different people. There's the exerciser, the fitness enthusiast, the lifter, and then you've got the average Joe. Let's say, and the average person is not necessarily very fitness oriented. So average Joe, we agree that pretty much across the board, other than the B complex, just being optional, with the endocrinologist recommendations. So D3, magnesium and zinc, We added the zinc in there. CoQ10.
Well, for the same reason, zinc is something that if you're deficient in, it actually causes some issues in your body.
However, you do not want to over supplement on zinc. So make sure that you actually make sure you actually need those, because those can become toxic if you overconsume.
Absolutely.
So there was D3, magnesium, zinc, CoQ10, omega-3, because our diets are just so dramatically full of pro-inflammatory fatty acids. And then we add in a multivitamin, just a general multi.
Which I think covers the B complex better, to be honest.
And often they do have a B complex associated with them. And the reason I recommend a multivitamin, at least, there's people out there that will tell you no, and there are people out there that will tell you that you just pee it out and whatnot. That really depends. You have fat-soluble and water-soluble vitamins, meaning that you do need to be consuming enough water, which is something people don't do, and enough healthy fatty acids, which is something people don't do, in order to actually absorb these vitamins and minerals. And so, yeah, you can just excrete them sometimes and miss their benefits if you're not getting enough of those other two nutrients in order to absorb them. But even though there's fortifications in processed foods, meaning that they're fortified with vitamins and minerals, so some foods have added vitamins and minerals because during the processing they lose those right. Nutritional contents. I still think people eat so poorly these days that they do not get enough of their micronutrients, and that's why I still would recommend a normal kind of multivitamin, nothing like a sport multivitamin or like a high level super dosing multivitamin like some of these supplement companies push, because that's when you can look at overconsumption and potential issues with micronutrient overdose, essentially.
Because there's a risk when you overdose on most things. Now, if it's water soluble, it's less likely to be a risk.
Yeah, your fat soluble vitamins, by the way, are A, D, E, and K. Just so you know, if you're consuming foods or supplements that have those in there, you're going to need a dietary fat in order to actually absorb those nutrients.
Yeah, that's true.
And then pretty much everything else we're talking about are water soluble.
You know, we didn't bring it up. Vitamin K is actually amazing too. We won't cover
that. That's actually, we could make a whole episode on vitamin K. There's been a lot of recent.
That's been
coming out about that.
A lot. Vitamin K is amazing stuff. So
then that was our list for the average Joe. Our list for the regular exerciser, especially lifters. Do you want to take this?
No, go. Like I said, it's more in your vision.
Yeah. So we're reading from our notes pretty much. Creatine, whey protein, omega-3, not flaxseed necessarily as your source though. A multivitamin, vitamin D3 as a maybe. That depends on the individual's actual need for it. And so that's 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. So talk about creatine. Let's tell them kind of the benefits of supplementing with that.
Well, creatine is very beneficial in hydration of your muscle. It's actually naturally produced. You get it in red meats mainly. You will get it in fishes as well, I believe. It's fish, is it not? Are you sure on that?
I'm not sure if it's in fish.
It's either fish or fowls, but I'm pretty certain it's not birds. So anyway, I'm pretty certain it's fish.
It's in beef.
But it is highly in beef. Yeah. Yes, it's well known to be in beef. So, but it's something that it causes hydration. It helps so that you have more
saturates the muscle.
And if you take it in the correct way, you could, like I said before, we talked about this a little bit before in an earlier episode that I've experienced cramping with creatine a little bit. That only really happens if you're low in your muscle with creatine. Otherwise, it really has a really high effect on muscle growth. It has a lot on recovery. It's something that's very good to have for anybody who's lifting for sure, just because it's something that helps quite a bit how your body works.
Yeah, and creatine is the most heavily researched and studied supplement that there is to this date. So it's the one thing we know the most information about, and it has been deemed safe.
Can't overdose
generally recognized as safe is kind of the term that you may use.
Yeah, and you can't overdose on it. You don't need to. What's the word I'm looking for?
Load
it.
Yeah.
You don't need to load. If you take it consistently, your muscle will actually have it in it because that's where it sits and rests.
One of the main things you're going to notice with creatine is that the energy, because creatine for anaerobic exercise, meaning lifting or non-oxygen based exercise, so high intensity resistance based stuff, is going to recruit creatine immediately before even going into using glycogen or food for fuel.
Right.
But you don't have very much creatine. So if you're looking to get a little bit more energy and strength in anaerobic exercise, then creatine is a good supplement for performance, especially. There's lots of information about creatine out there.
Yeah, and like I said, the some of the misinformation is more towards overuse. You can't really, it's not going to hurt you, but it's also, after about 5 grams, it's not helping you anymore.
Yeah, you don't need to necessarily take much more than that. Just make sure that you're hydrating because it will suck a lot of that water that you're taking into your muscles and hold it there. You need to be definitely drinking a lot more water than you're used to drinking in order to allow for enough water to be available for other bodily functions.
Yep.
You don't want to dehydrate yourself by underhydrating when supplementing with creatine.
But throwing this out too, it's not like it's not safe. It's something that you'll notice, and it'll be more of a painful thing than anything else. The dehydration. It's not like you're going to go to the doctor because of it. But
yeah. Next one was whey protein. I personally, Shane and I talked about this right before. I personally would recommend specifically whey protein isolate. Now, we had to talk about the cost of that because that does tend to go up a little bit with whey protein isolate.
It's just a little more pure.
Yeah, basically it has a higher level of branched chain amino acid content, which are your essential amino acids that are arguably some of the more important amino acids to actually get in your body. So if you're going to take whey protein, that over concentrate or even hydrolyzed or hydrolyzed protein, you're going to net more actual amino acid absorption, and you're going to get better quality amino acids in that.
The absorption is the biggest key to that. I'll give you that isolate is a better absorber than concentrate because it is. Mm-hmm. It's more readily absorbed by the body.
Because what happens is different types of foods and supplements get broken down in your body, and you don't net everything that you consume.
Right.
You lose a certain amount of those nutrients during the digestive process, and whey protein, you will absorb the actual largest amount of what you're consuming, because you're gonna, with other types of proteins, you may not net nearly as much, and then it has the higher quality amino acids too.
And if you don't have the capacity to get that, and you have the capacity to get eggs pretty good too.
Yeah,
in fairness, but
and I mean, this is obviously under the circumstance that you're not getting enough protein in your diet.
Agreed.
You don't have to take this supplement.
Nope.
The next one we did agree was omega-3. We talked about the benefits there, being anti-inflammatory, people not getting enough of it.
Well, the reason why we're not going towards flaxseed is because it has omega-6 and omega-9 in it as well.
Which you don't need more of because you're probably getting enough.
You're getting a lot more than you should get probably today. But the reality is that's the reason why I personally don't recommend flaxseed. It's not like it's bad. Flaxseed has benefits as well, but I would lean towards a omega-3 based off of fish oil.
Mm-hmm. Then we just talked about multivitamins, so that was the other one that we agree with. And then vitamin D3, under the circumstances that you actually need it, go get your blood work done, get tested, see if your D is low. And if you're in normal ranges, then you're probably fine.
If you spend a lot of time on the beach in Florida, you don't need it.
Yeah.
But it'd be a lot of time.
In fact, what would be even healthier, instead of relying on a vitamin D supplement, try to spend 20 minutes out in the sun each day.
Agreed. Now, I will tell you this, because we're talking about this specifically. The darker your skin is, by nature, the more that you would need vitamin D3, because it actually will block the sun, so you won't have as much reception of vitamin D3. So that needs to be added in there as well.
Awesome. Let's see here. We're going to save, Sue, I'm sorry, because of time, we're going to save your other half of your questions for another episode so we can answer these last two people's questions.
That's a solid question, though. So we read that question, and we both were like, wow.
This is actually kind of what I was talking to you about formerly before this episode aired, that about asking great questions that turn into entire episodes. So that's one of those questions. The next question, thanks for hanging in there with us. Megan Moritzen says, I do have a follow-up question regarding one of our previous podcasts. She said, you talked about the recommended maximum daily sugar intake at about 38 grams. Is that in total sugar intake or added sugars? So let me preface this. If you look it up, the technical dietary reference intakes are going to recommend that no more than your total daily carbohydrate intake be no more. Your total daily sugar intake for the day should not exceed more than 25% of your actual daily carbohydrate intake, because sugars are a type of carbohydrates. Now, if you're taking in a 2,000 calorie diet like they normally recommend, which isn't necessarily for everyone, 25% of that would be 125 grams of sugar, which I think is way too high and completely unnecessary. So you'll see other sources recommend somewhere, I think I said 38, but it might actually be like around 36, somewhere right around there, 40 or less if you want to round it. That's kind of what a lot of other sources will recommend as kind of a cap on daily sugar intake. I think that's a lot more reasonable. Just because, and that kind of breaks it down to about, a single digit to about 10 or 15 grams of sugar, serving sizes, I guess. This is if you're actually getting it from good sources like fruits and things like that. Now, in all honesty, I recommend that you kind of keep your sugar intake as minimal as possible. It's just not necessary unless for some reason you have very bad hypoglycemia where your blood sugar is super low. You're on the risk of passing out. Diabetics obviously may need sugar on hand for certain emergency purposes to bring their blood sugar back up. And so sugar is a tool. Sugar serves a purpose, but it is pro-inflammatory. It's something that is way too prevalent in our foods and drinks and things like that. People get plenty of this. Trust me. If you just add up, you'd use your MyFitnessPal app or some type of food tracking, track all the sugar you're already consuming. I guarantee you're getting probably more than 38 grams. You're probably getting a lot of your carbs from sugars. So this 38 grams would be my total daily sugar recommendation or suggestion, I should say, because I'm not officially a registered dietitian yet, but I would like to become one. And so just be conscientious of how much sugar you're consuming. It's in everything. It's in a lot of things. And even if you're consuming a lot of fruits, it's going to add up to be quite a bit each day. So I would say in terms of added sugars, just lump that all in with your total daily sugar intake and just keep it as low as possible. Shane?
This is your question all the way, dude. I was staying out of that one.
So yeah, anyway, Megan, if you have more details about that you want answered, just let us know. I saw you also left that comment on Facebook on the group, so I will give you some suggestions there too. Last question is from Laura. And Laura, I'm sorry, I do not know how to pronounce that last name, so you are very special and unique, but I don't know how to pronounce it. You basically said, hey, any recommendations for nutritionists or dietitians in the Salt Lake area? So let's clarify this. You have a couple different levels of nutrition professionals. You have certified nutrition specialists. Well, actually, I should do this in order. You have certified nutritionists that have a non-degree certification, like essentially an accredited certification or diploma. I am one of those currently. Okay, I am working on my my kinesiology degree with a minor in nutrition. In fact, I actually completed my minor already, so I'm above average educated in nutrition than your trainers, most, as you'll see in another episode, actually most physicians, things like that. But I'm not a registered dietitian yet. A registered dietitian or licensed nutritionist, which is different than a certified, require 4-year degrees specializing in nutrition, and they require state licensing. I do not personally require state licensing yet because it's not regulated in that sense, and that's why we have our disclaimer, to be honest, is because though we both know quite a bit about nutrition, we don't have a state license. And so for your safety, we do have to give you that disclaimer and say that those professionals may know more than us. And everything that we talk about are mere suggestions and your individual needs vary. And that's why we have a disclaimer, unfortunately. So just to protect you. Then you also can get other certifications, like a certified nutrition specialist or CNS. That would be, you'd have to have a 4-year degree. Plus, I believe there are other experience levels that you have to attain after your degree in order to become a CNS. And that is, those are some varying levels of nutritionists or nutrition professionals. Now, for the Salt Lake area, again, if you like what we're talking about, feel free to fact check us. And we're very humble that if we do misquote something, just let us know.
As I did at the beginning of this episode.
Right. So, but we do know a lot more than the average personal trainer. We know a lot more than some physicians due to our education and hours put in and research. But if you're looking for somebody else, personally, I don't know any specific one individual that I would recommend to you. I guess it would really depend on what you're trying to do goal wise. I would do this. I would search some of the databases. Just search for a registered dietitian. Specifically, I would look for a registered dietitian, not a licensed nutritionist. Registered dietitians, I believe, are held to higher standards.
They are. They are for sure.
So I would search for an RD or a registered dietitian in the area, and then do your homework and shop and schedule some consultations with multiple of them and decide who's right for you. Just like we talked about shopping for a trainer, find the right dietitian for you. And talk to your doctor and talk to other people and see if your individual needs call for a dietitian. It really depends on what it is that you're wanting to do or what you're looking for that's going to determine whether you need a dietitian's assistance or not.
Okay, since I want to voice in on this, and you can tell since I'm moving around, but it depends on really what you need, because if you don't need a full-out diet written for you, because something like what we would do is suggestions. We would recommend how we would think it would be wiser for you to eat. We'd give you direction on choosing your own foods and doing things like that on a more intelligent basis, more educated basis for you. But if you need something written out, then you have to go to a dietitian. That's the only way. We couldn't do that if we wanted to. 'Cause it's not
legally, yeah, that's kind of the situation. One thing to think about too is, so you're considering meeting with a dietitian. Again, asking yourself what it is that you want to accomplish. What's the purpose for going into seeing that person? Are you wanting them to just write out a specific eat this each day? Because in my personal opinion, that's just not sustainable. What you're going to follow a piece of paper for the rest of your life? That's what I would focus on. Is if you're going to find a nutrition professional like that, make sure they're a person that's going to teach you about food.
Agreed.
Not just write you up like I could write you up a workout, right? That doesn't teach you how to work out necessarily.
Which is our goal. We want you guys to know
we're working on something that will help you actually learn concepts and actually teach you to work out. But So I'm not just going to give you a workout and say, oh, there's your workout, come back next week. That's not someone who's got the mind of a teacher that wants to truly help you. That's someone that wants you to continue to pay them over and over again for the information they're giving you because you don't know how to do it on your own.
Right.
You want to find someone that is whose goal is to help you live a healthier lifestyle by educating you and teaching you what you need to know around food so that you can sustain it on your own and incorporate flexibility into your diet, like we've talked about in the past and we plan on talking about in the future, is being able to just understand food for what it is and how it functions in your body and say, you know what, today's one of those days where I don't need carbohydrates, or today's one of those days where I might need them, or today's one of those days where my total intake should be more or less, and just being able to make those decisions on your own. So search for someone that will teach you.
Well, now I would say there is a need on occasion, just like I always suggest. The high end is somebody needs a doctor when they're getting in a car accident and they need to be sewed up. Okay, when you're looking for a meal plan, there are people that are going to need to have it written out because it needs to be that specific. That being said, having direction to have a better idea of what you're eating and why you're eating it is kind of what we're going for with this. Like I said, Taylor and I have had different views on this for most of the time we've known each other, but we're coming more towards the same concept, but it's more because we have the idea of education towards other people. And so to talk to somebody like us about it, or someone else who would have a higher understanding of nutrition, they're going to be trying to get you to understand what you're getting into and what you're going to be going forward with, so you can set up your own ideas. It turns back, and we're both asking this question to you. It's basically, what is your goal? What is the reason for what you're asking this question for, so we can actually give a better answer on it. Mm-hmm. I think that we've answered it pretty adequately, so that you understand where we're coming from and kind of have an idea on the direction that we're suggesting. But if you give us a better idea on what you're going for, so that we can help you through it, we'd like to. So,
yeah, send us another email with more details about what you're looking for, and then maybe we can help you out in the next Q&A.
Sweet.
Okay. So that's all the questions and answers we have and time for today. So if you want to have your questions answered in the next one, just go to metabolicradio.com, click on the Q&A tab, and submit your question there. Also, join the Facebook group, Metabolic Radio Private Forum, and we can answer your questions there as well.
Yeah, and post in, as far as the forum's concerned, post what you feel is appropriate for our forum. We actually want our community to grow and to communicate with each other as well as with us, and let's do it.
Yeah, we're actually really excited with all the activity that's been going on. Our notifications have been blowing up, and so we apologize if we get to your stuff late or days later, but we're really happy that you all are taking the initiative to start communicating with not just us but each other and really building a community, because that's what's going to also help you see success no matter what your goals are, no matter where you're starting out, or if you've been doing this for years, is building this community of support and education and a point of reference and motivation for you. So don't be shy. Leave your comments, ask your questions. If you have something that's been bothering you that you want to talk about, we're the people, both your community and Shane and I are the people that will help you out with that. So please keep it up. Pretty much.
Yep.
All right.
Sure.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
See you.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Shane and I hope you learned something new and exciting today about your own health and fitness. Head over to metabolicradio.com. There you'll find our bios and our results-driven programs that are designed to help teach you everything you need to know when it comes to getting real permanent results. You can also sign up for our newsletter to get free weekly updates. To chat with Shane or I, just email us at taylor@metabolicradio.com or shane@metabolicradio.com. We would love to hear from you. You can also join the conversation on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com and search for Metabolic Radio Private Forum. There you can request to join the group. We would love to add you to the conversation and answer your questions on the show. And hey, if you like our podcast, please help us grow our community by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. We would really appreciate your help. Thanks again so much for all your support and your listenership. Now go out there and spread the good word of fitness.